Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of Zog Science. Today, we're going to be talking about chromosomal abnormalities and how they can lead to problems. So, the main reason for chromosomal abnormalities is nondisjunction, and nondisjunction is when either the sister chromatids or the homologous pairs of chromosomes fail to separate during, meiosis. Now, why would this not be happening during mitosis? Well, if it happens in mitosis, it's just going to lead to problems in one cell or maybe a few cells within the body. The thing about meiosis is that these are the cells that are going to be producing new individuals. So if these problems occur, if non-disjunction occurs in the gametes, then this is going to lead to problems for the entire individual because all of the cells are going to be affected. All right. So again, there's kind of these two places that can occur, either during meiosis 1, during metaphase, anaphase, or during meiosis 2, during metaphase, anaphase. Obviously, it doesn't really matter in terms of the final individual, but each of them is a little different just in terms of the number of problematic gametes that are formed. So the results, what has happened? Well, it must occur in the germline cells, which we just kind of talked about. That would be those gametes through meiosis. It's called an aneuploidy, which is a zygote that has an abnormal number of chromosomes. 2n-1 is monosomic, so basically you only have one of a particular chromosome. You could also have 2n+1, which is trisomic, having 3 of a particular chromosome. And then mitosis is then going to lead to all the cells of that individual having this abnormal number. So there's another way that we can also have problems, which is the actual chromosome structure can be damaged either through crossing over or because of some sort of agent like radiation. So there are 4 different types. And the first one is a deletion, where a gene or a segment of the DNA of the chromosome is just deleted, it's gone. We can also have duplication. That's where a portion of the chromosome is copied so that now it is on there twice. We can have an inversion, where the order of the genes is switched around. Or we can have a translocation. A translocation occurs where either a piece of a chromosome is moved to another chromosome, or it can be swapped with a chromosome that it is not homologous with. Now, these don't necessarily always lead to problems because some of the genes can function properly even without being in the correct location. However, they can lead to problems when things like regulatory genes are separated from the genes that they would normally be regulating. And the problems that occur then is either underproduction or overproduction of particular proteins. So let's talk about some disorders. We're going to get into some specifics in a moment, but first we're just kind of going to talk about in general. So somy is a suffix that refers to a single chromosome being affected. For example, trisomy 21 is just chromosome number 21 being affected. Whereas ploidy means that we have extra homologous sets. So, for example, we could be 3n instead, or 4n, or 5n, so on and so forth, instead of just being n or 2n. Ploidies are not really generated or tolerated in animals very often. They don't really allow an animal to survive, but it's very common in plants, especially crops. Most crop plants that we have are ploidies. For example, strawberries are octoploids. And in general, what happens with plants when you have a ploidy is that the fruit that is produced is generally larger, which is part of the reason why they are octoploids, strawberries, is because they're much larger than what you would find in the wild. So the first disorder that we're going to talk about, and these are specifically going to be human disorders, is trisomy 21. That means that you have an extra 21st chromosome. It's also known as Down syndrome. And the frequency increases as the age of the parents increases. So in general, as either the mother or the father or both get older, it is more likely for your child to be a Down syndrome. And that's because the mechanisms that regulate meiosis tend to be a little more difficult as age increases. Trisomy 21 leads to developmental delays, including short stature and heart defects that can be corrected. Again, problems are going to arise because of increased expression of the genes found on the 21st chromosome. So that's going to lead to all the issues. Now, there are some treatments that can improve some of the skills, although there's no way to actually fix the problem. They can include speech, physical, occupational, or educational therapy to just kind of help the individual cope with the problems that they're going to have. We also have Klinefelter syndrome. It's an extra X chromosome paired with a Y, so it's XXY. This is going to be a male, and symptoms include infertility, tallness, and a little bit more fat around the belly, and that's due to the extra X chromosome. You also are going to develop some secondary sexual characteristics more associated with females, so maybe enlargement of the breasts, as well as maybe a little bit less of muscle tone than what you might find on a normal male. And so the way that this can generally be treated is testosterone replacement therapy, so help kind of boost the testosterone levels, as well as breast reduction surgery can kind of help the individual out, although there's really no way to get around the infertility part. We also have Jacob syndrome, which is instead of an extra X, an extra Y. These males are fertile. They can have some developmental delays as well as muscle weakness, and generally fairly normal lives. They're not going to be affected too terribly, just because the extra Y, again, it really doesn't have a whole lot of genes on it, so having an extra one doesn't have too much of an effect. We also have Turner syndrome, which is a missing second sex chromosome. This leads to infertility, characterized by shortness, extra skin on the neck, or kind of a webbness on the neck, swollen hands and feet, and low set ears. Hormone treatments can help, and sometimes they can actually reverse the infertility because you're adding estrogen and other hormones to the system, so you can help kind of fill in for that missing X chromosome. And then finally, we've got Trisomy X, which is an extra X chromosome in females. Normal development and fertility. However, there is an increased risk of developmental delays, both intellectually and with motor skills. And Trisomy X individuals are actually generally a little taller than the average female. Finally, we've got Cri Du Chat, which is French for cry of the cat. And this is the result of a specific deletion on chromosome number 5. So this would be an example of a chromosome structure being affected rather than a whole chromosome. And what happens is that a specific region of the chromosome gets cut off. And you can kind of see that in the picture right here. And that leads to a severe intellectual disability and a smaller brain. And in general, the individuals have a kind of a cry that sounds like a distressed cat, which is the reason why I got his name, Cri Du Chat. And it is, unfortunately, these individuals usually die in infancy. All right, well, this is a short episode. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.